Hello. I'm in the cafe today because there's no one here, so it's quite nice. Well, it's nice when people are here as well, but it makes a change, doesn't it? Now, we're on to episode 6 of our series looking at kind of highlights in the Gospel of Mark, and it's quite a meditative one. It's quite hard to say, that is. And you may think, well, why do that in a cafe? Shouldn't we be in some quiet, cloistered chapel somewhere where it's all calm and silent? Well, that has its place. But at Chelmsford Wood, we're quite keen on the idea that our faith and our spirituality is in the real world. And if you always have to escape, hundreds of miles from civilization in order to pray and be quiet, well, you're not going to get much chance to do that. So I'm very keen on the idea of a day-to-day spirituality. I call it neo monasticism, because the neo-monasticism is a kind of more open approach to the more kind of abbeys and convents and stuff, and a neo monasticism or neo-monasticism talks about everyday life and liturgy, but it's also about getting away all the time. And I understand the importance of getting away, believe me, I do. But there's also neo-monasticism. That is my copyright and my trademark, which is about, well, most of us live ordinary lives. We go to work, we pay the gas bill, we clear up the cat sick, all that kind of stuff that's normal life. And Jesus lived that kind of spiritual life, where the real life happened anyway. And how do we discover God in that? And I think that's what incarnation is about. God didn't say, well, you need to all come away and live a life that no one else lives in order to grow and get to know me. God says, I'm right there in the midst of it all. So we will pause. I will put a slightly different film on the quiet moments, just a short moment. There's 5 points. We're using the examine as our kind of structure for it, which we do in midday prayers once a month or so. And it's a way of just kind of reflecting on where we're at and where we're going as well. So let's just start by being quiet and become aware of God's presence where you are now. Ask God for light, that God will shine light on you and into your life. And ask that you will see life as it is through God's eyes. So look around you, as well as inside of you, to see what barriers there are. Where are the shadows being cast? Where are the shut doors or the curtains closed? And try and open yourself up to what God has to say. We've all got things that kind of block our vision of God. We've got our to-do lists, haven't we? And we've got things that we've never got around to doing in the house. And we've got things that we're worried about, things, an emotional load, things that weigh heavy on us. And these things get in the way of us and God, because they take a priority. They kind of push themselves into our faces. So let's acknowledge those things, see them for what they are, and you'll never get rid of that stuff. I guess there may be another level you can attain where you can just switch all that stuff off. But for most of us, well, we just got to try and make sense of it as it is now. So just have a moment to ponder what's going on in your life and ask God to shine light into it. And the things that pop up in your mind, that are prominent in your mind, don't try and force them away. Just try and look past them, or look in front of them, or look around them and say, well, these are features of my landscape, but I want God to shine on all of that. The day that we live, each day, is a gift from God. So let's just do that. Let's ponder that for a few moments. So each day is a gift from God. So we're going to count our blessings now. Now you might like to use your fingers if you have them. and depending on how many you've got. But try and think of 5 to 10 things that you want to thank God for in your life. Count your blessings. Give thanks to God. Because again, it's easy to be overwhelmed by all of the difficult stuff. I was at the Commonwealth Games opening, and it kind of made clear to me, it showed me that actually there's a lot of bad stuff going on, isn't there? There's no denying that. And it doesn't hurt sometimes to go, well, despite that, there is good around. And seeing all those people gathered, different backgrounds and nations and races, all these people coming together and celebrating what is good. It was an amazing experience. And we forget in the daily grind that actually life is good. People, on the whole, are good. This world that God's given us is good. There's beauty here. So just spend a moment to thank God and to count your blessings. The third movement in the examine is to review your day. You look back over the last day. Now, we're not doing that quite today. Before we do the review, let's have our reading, which is from Mark chapter 14. Jesus is heading in to Jerusalem now, so the things are getting close. Jesus was in Bethany at the house of Simon, a man who'd suffered from a dreaded skin disease. While Jesus was eating, a woman came in with an alabaster jar full of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. She broke the jar and poured the perfume on Jesus' head. Some of the people there became angry and said to one another, "What was the use of wasting that perfume? It could have been sold for more than 300 silver coins, and the money given to the poor," and they criticized her harshly. But Jesus said, "Leave her alone. Why are you bothering her? She's done a fine and beautiful thing for me. You'll always have poor people with you, and any time you want to, you can help them. But you won't always have me." She did what she could. She poured perfume on my body to prepare it ahead of time for burial. Now I assure you that wherever the gospel is preached all over the world, what she's done will be told in memory of her. This is another key moment in the life of Jesus. This woman, who's named in the Gospel of John, actually in chapter 12, as Mary, as in Mary and Martha, she noticed who Jesus was. She noticed how important he was. And she showed her gratitude in the best way that she felt she could. She gave up this expensive perfume to anoint him. It was an act of sacrifice. And it was also a symbol of what was to come. This burial, this death, and this burial that was to come. It was important, this particular act, because all around Jesus, nearly everyone around him, was out for what they could get. Healing, or exorcisms, or teaching, or a miracle to see. They hustled and they jostled to get to the front so that Jesus would see them. Jesus would notice them, touch them. Mary gives, and she comes in for criticism for that. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's stupid. She's selfish. Is she not thinking of anyone else? What's going on? But Jesus new. Some things are important. Some acts are important. Sometimes we can't be saving the world. Sometimes we just need to calm down, to focus, and to be in the presence of Jesus. Not demanding, not obsessing over our own opinions on what should be done and what shouldn't be done and what I need. In order to grow as a disciple, sometimes we just need to be with Jesus, to give him what we have, what we hold precious. Tomorrow is another day, and sometimes we can put saving the world off till tomorrow, just in order to be with God and to give ourselves afresh to God. There is clearly a risk here. There's a risk that we use this as an excuse not to act. We're too busy praying, so we can't help. I've got to be there, or I've got to go to this meeting, or whatever it might be. Whatever excuse us religious people use for not actually doing things. We think it's not spiritual enough. And we clearly do need to live our faith out in every aspect of our lives. What we buy, how we treat people, what we do with our energy and our resources. These things are important, yes. But if we don't spend time with Jesus, if we don't actually give ourselves to Jesus first, well then it's not really an act of faith. It may be good and worthy, but we need to fill our actions with faith if we are people of Jesus. We need to give ourselves first to him, and then we're able to give to others. And so, as Jesus said, we remember her. And from this, we learn, firstly, that we're called to give what we have, to give each day to Jesus, whatever it costs us, however important or precious we may feel our time is. And secondly, for us and for you, to know that you are noticed anyway. You don't need to jostle or fight. You don't need to be at the front or the star of the show. Because know that Jesus does notice you and remembers you. So let's spend a few moments to review ourselves, to look at our days. What do we do? What do I do with my time? What am I fixated with? What do I obsess over? What things have I got so much time for that I don't have time to grow as a disciple of Jesus? So let's spend a few moments now to look at what you do with your time, your energy, what you think about all the time. Because these things are indicators of where our heart truly is. So having done that, ask yourself now, what is God saying to you through that? This could be to reorder, to reprioritize something, to move something down your list. So we'll take a moment to do that, just to think all those things that went through your head. What is it as God saying, well, actually, this isn't as important as you make out, or this is just something you do to avoid doing what is important. So choose one thing, perhaps, and pray from that. Say, well, all right, God, what am I to do? How can I live a life that reflects your love and your presence? What can I change? The final movement in the examine is to look ahead. We've looked back. Well, we've acknowledged God's goodness and presence. We've asked God to be with us, help us to see things. We've kind of relived how we live our lives. We've considered that. We've asked God to show us. The last movement is to put the coming day into God's hands. So whatever you've got coming up, whatever your to-do list is, does it involve sitting in the presence of Jesus to anoint him? And in that giving, we find that Jesus anoints us also as his followers. Thank you for joining us for episode 6. I pray that we'll continue to journey with Jesus as we've looked at these highlights in his life. Let them kind of feed into how we live our lives. And the next episode, I think 7, probably is 7, isn't it, is our last one. We come to the end of the story, if you like, or the end of that bit of the story. Because after next episode, it's when Jesus says, all right, it's up to you now. I've shown you how you can live, how the world can be. And then it's up to us to take that. So take what God has said to you today and feed that into your life. Prioritize that into your life. And just as we give to Christ, we find we are given so much more back. Amen.